John Gillespie is a 38-year industry veteran. He is the managing director of the Phenix Salon Suites in the UK and Europe. From education to TV to fashion, he has performed in over 50 countries and the person responsible for bringing Salon Suites to the UK. Today, we're going to hear all about his story and how he got to where he is and what the future looks like. Welcome back to the Hairdresser Strong Show. I am your host, Robert Hughes, and today I'm with John Gillespie. How are you doing today, John?
I am fantastic, Robert. It's snow outside. It's December. We're coming into our crazy season in hairdressing. So I'm looking forward to that. But altogether, yes, I'm very good. Thank you.
Nice, awesome. So it's snowing over there. I would love to get some snow on the ground over here. So tell us, let's start off by getting to know you and being the person to bring Salon Suites to the UK and now being a part of the process to spread it across Europe. That's a um really interesting thing that you've done. And but before we get into what that's like, I think it'd be cool to hear your background. So why don't you tell us what your story is, like, why hair and what led you to where you are?
Okay, thanks, Robert. I will certainly do that. I suppose, again, as you said, 38 years ago, I began in the industry at 16 years old. However, that really wasn't the beginning for me. I grew up in a hairdressing salon. My father was a hairdresser, my mother was a hairdresser. So I was like sweeping floors when I was 5 years old. I was folding towels, talking to clients, and being honest, my father, they had a hard time in the industry. It was hard work, long hours, not necessarily huge amounts of compensation for that. So he saw it as a hard life and didn't really want it for me. But when I was 16, I wanted to leave school. I wanted to kind of do something, and I suppose it just felt right that it was hair. But up until that point, there was no plan for me to work in the industry of the family, so to speak. So that was a bit of a shock, I think, to everybody, or to my mum and dad. So that was, again, 16 years old. The best thing we did at that point in time was that year Salon International, which is in London. That's the big UK, Europe almost, education event. It's like a really big event with classes and, manufacturers with stands, education, shows. And it was there that I saw hairdressers on stage, with microphones and doing models' hair. I saw shows, and that's what really lit me up about the industry when I saw people performing. And that became my goal. That became really what I wanted to do. Was I turned on by doing clients all day, every day? I'll be honest with you, no, I wasn't. That wasn't it for me. I had dreams from the start I want to be on that stage. I want the microphone. I want to, be doing models' hair, and I want the glamour, the lights, if you like. And that's the way I was, and I was sort of very hungry and ambitious to try and achieve what I could do. And to a certain degree, then I feel I've had a great career, and I've surpassed many things that I thought I could or would do. Just sort of as a timeline, I started off doing photographs, my own ones, trying to get them published in magazines, trade magazines, and getting better at that. To then working with photographers, to then getting a little picture in a magazine, to then getting a bigger picture, to then getting the front cover. 6 hairdressers journals, international front covers to date, which I'm very proud of. Uh,
Nice.
so that was the big, that was the things for me, was to get noticed, to try and be something in the industry. And then from that, what happens, you tend to find an hairdresser, if you're shouting about how great you are, one of these days, and this is when I think a lot of people get scared, is you're going to have to prove it. Because you can go so long with just by saying, yeah, this is great and I'm great and blah, blah, blah. But there comes a time when you're going to have to prove it. And I always think the proof of the pudding, or the test, the big test, is to stand and do a haircut live, in front of an audience. That is for me, I'm not sure if it is now, But certainly at the time in my career, that was, that was a big test. Can you get up there and do it? Can you get from behind the chair onto a platform? And for me, that was the buzz for me. That was the excitement. And to be fair, I did do that, and I very quickly got into that. I felt I was good at it. I felt I could communicate with crowds well. I enjoyed um, being in front of an audience.
What do
So I
you think it
suppose,
was? Sorry, what do you think it was about? Like what you're talking about, I feel like a lot of people would totally relate to is like getting up on stage, and that's one, it's cool, and it's also a testament to your abilities. But like, how did were you ever like nervous or like scared, or did you just kind of like dive in and head deep and hold your breath? Or
I'll be honest, I was absolutely scared and nervous because it's very much in the industry. No, as some people do get to that point of performing, you don't. Nobody actually really teaches you how to do it. It's all very much, an organic thing that you end up. Here I am, and I'm doing it. But for me, yes, I was nervous. Yes, I could feel sick before it. But I got over that, and for me, the motivation was, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to let the next guy go up and do it, or the next girl go up and do it? This is what I wanted. This is my chance. I will do it,
so
and
you
that
would
was,
just like talk yourself, like kind of pump
yeah,
yourself up? Yeah,
totally. I would almost like get aggressive about it. I'd like, come on, and get
nice.
myself lifted up, and that worked for me. And as the audiences grew bigger, a big changing moment for me was, I was doing well within the hairdressing industry, as I say, getting the front covers, doing seminars, doing all the things you could do within the industry. I then got picked up by a big American company, a direct sale company, and I was tasked with working with them to redevelop their hair care line. So then I got involved in the actual, nuts and bolts of creating shampoos, conditioners, and that was a life-changing moment for me and a career-changing moment, because with that, what started off as a good role became a huge role, and I was the kind of global spokesperson for the brand. And what that entailed was um, taking that brand around the world, doing world launches, and this company in America, they would do events, and sometimes I would be performing in front of up to 5,000-6,000 people, which generally hairdressers, have not and do not do very rarely. So for me, that was huge excitement. It took me all over the world, and it changed my life as far as the experiences I had. It was a kind of a bit of being a rock and roll star within that world. And it was first class travel. It was 5-star hotels. It was, looking back, it was an unbelievable time. But I developed my thing as being, it wasn't really just doing hair. It then became almost like a motivational sales, pitch or seminar. So it became much more motivational speaking, and actually getting people excited about buying shampoo or excited about hair care, as a business, whereas before they perhaps laughed it off or thought that's not really worth my while. So it was getting my passion, one, into bottles, but also out into the market and saying, do you know what, this is an exciting, thriving industry. Haircuts make the news. And going back in the time, it was a time when, like, David Beckham had his mohawk, and it was headline news. And I thought, what else? This is how great this industry is, that a haircut can be the headlines on the national TV news programs. So that was a hugely exciting time. From there, a couple of big moments. I was elevated again I was asked to do the MTV Awards when they came to the UK, to Scotland, actually, in Edinburgh. So then I was working with on the shows of, like, Beyonce, Christina Aguilera, Kylie Minogue, Justin Timberlake, and the kind of press and the wherewithal I got with that was fantastic. And it really elevated my persona and my reputation. From that, I also created a situation that a US company again brought a model to the UK and got me to do her new hair, a new look, change her hair, create a look for. She was facing up a brand of a skincare makeup brand, and we created a story around that, which was my idea because I thought this is a big news. This is great. This great model from New York is coming to the UK. She's coming first class. I'm working with her for 3 days. We're doing pictures, all the rest of it. I thought surely there's a story in this. So what I did was I thought to myself, how much is all this costing? So this is quite a few years ago, but at the time, I conservatively added it up between flights, my fee, the photographer's fee, the makeup artist, hotels, all the rest of it. And it totaled conservatively to £30,000. So I built the story around the £30,000 haircut. So at the time, it might have been beaten now, but at the time, that was the most expensive haircut that's ever happened. Okay, I wasn't given £30,000 for the haircut, but the bill added up to about £30,000. So I created the £30,000 haircut. From that, after the MTV Awards, this was about a year later. With that story, I hit every newspaper in the UK, and even broadsheets, not just the red tops. So, and it was again a fantastic time to raise my profile and just create a kind of. It was a different path that I'd taken, through all the traveling, different experiences. So that's the key moments of my career that got me to this elevated stage.
So this is really fascinating. So one, let's go back for a second. How did you do hair behind the chair, like
Yes,
in the salon?
yes, and I would,
How
would say
long?
that as well. I did that, and I'm still doing it. I still do 1 day a week, if
Okay.
most people, all weeks. But I worked behind the chair 5-6 days a week for years and years and years. Even when I was traveling, I was still coming back and behind the chair again. So it wasn't like one thing to the other. I kind of kept going because what I would always say to hairdressers, your bread and butter is your calling. Your day-to-day clients. If you've not got that solid base, it's hard to then go out and do anything else. So I always say before you do anything within here, build your base of a strong clientele, build your bread and butter that you need to pay your bills, and you need, your weekly salary, if you like, and that will only come from a solid clientele, because it's very few that will all of a sudden make enough money that they can just not have to do clients. It's
So
that's the
this. Sorry. Go ahead. What'd you say?
that's the basis of everything.
So this is a topic that has come up a lot, especially on this show, because we talk a lot about the gap between the younger stylists and the new generation and the salon owners, and how now like the Gen Z generation has access to their phones and social media and videos, so they're able to like really kind of grow in a way that previous generations have not been. And also they're also being empowered with narratives and messages that tell them that the old way isn't necessarily the right way. And so got a lot of them blazing their own trails, which I am totally all for because I like to blaze my own trails. But I think that what what I'm curious to hear from you is when I say all this stuff, and I say that, building, you talking about building your clientele being the most important thing, and that gives you the ability to go off and try new things, like if you're making £5,000 or 5,000 whatever dollars, pounds, somewhere, I don't know what the exchange rate is right now, but if you're making 5 grand and you're like, this is amazing, I went and did this weekend, I did this show and I made 5 grand, but like that's not going to pay your bills. Still need like an income. So while you're getting kind of started into exploring yourself, you're saying, what I'm hearing you saying is develop like your security and your foundation, so that if something doesn't work out, you're not going to be like left without being able to pay your rent, basically.
Exactly. Because very rarely will it happen that your career just lifts off to the extent that you don't have to do your everyday stuff anymore. And it's interesting what you're saying about the change in the landscape. And you'll recognize there's young people who can be quite new in the industry and not actually achieved anything, but have a larger social following than the salon that they work in. So
Yeah.
these are things that we have to kind of get through and understand, really, as people been in the industry longer. Because what I will say is very few hairdressers, or certainly from the younger generations, work full time,
Yeah.
anymore. I mean, 5 days a week, that's unusual now. When I was doing it, you're talking 5, 6 days you were working. So whereas now 5, 6 days would be it's not happening. So the landscape is different, but at the end of the day, I think you just always have to carry on doing what you're doing, and believing in what you're doing, but at the same time understanding that there will be a different path, through their careers. But I always say as well, with what we are doing and what we've done, that grows with us and comes with us. And you can't always be everything to everyone. So it's a case of sometimes people can dart from one thing to the other and say, I better be doing this, and these people are doing that, I better do that. So I'm always like, kind of run your own race. And I always think, I mean, that then keeps you more focused and more understanding what you're doing. Otherwise, you can get sidetracked with chasing everything else that's going on. Because hair, fashion, beauty, it's like time. It's constant, and it's always going to change. And you can't keep changing all the time. You just have to kind of, as I say, I think run your own race and stick on your path with what you're comfortable with. Yes, of course, you can try things and experiment, but at the same time, it's easy to get kind of confused and chase the next big thing.
So, how did you get your like what led to you getting your first, I guess, not necessarily stage, because it sounded like you were doing photo shoots as well. So can you tell, like, say someone's listening right now, they're building their career at whatever stage they're at, but they really like this idea. They like this idea of working with celebrities or working with brands, doing hair on stage or photo shoots. What could you share, like, how that happened for you, and in a way, with by sharing certain details that might help another person pursue that dream as well?
For me, I mean, going back then, there wasn't social media, so you
Right.
weren't putting things out on Instagram or things like that. Things had to be printed, you had to put things in print. So a lot of it was and there was hair magazines, for example, that you could send your work into. And it was then, leveling up that work and getting better at it just through trial and error, really. And I think as well, mentorship, people in the industry, I think, good people and people who have done well tend to be happy to help. So it's always for me, don't be afraid to ask for help. People are actually usually quite flattered by it and are only too happy to say, yeah, well, I'll show you this, or I'll show you how to do that. So very unusual when you would get somebody to, well, I'm not going to share that with you. So generally ask for help, look for help. But I started, as I said, doing pictures for trade magazines. And then going back to the salon thing, being busy in your salon and having your salon busy, you're then buying, a lot from a manufacturer. So therefore you've got recognition with them and you've got a bit of leeway to say, well, can I do some work for you? So I think the good first step in the way is to get some kind of endorsement from perhaps a manufacturer and then start doing work for them. That tends to then pave the way on to greater things, if you like, whether it be through, I mean, for me, the things that working with brands, I educated all over the world for L'Oreal also, doing cutting seminars, and that again, that grew in the salon. That was from my salon work to knowing the people who worked for the brand, and then building that relationship. And guess what? Something comes up. Would you like to do it? Yes, I would. What will happen is I always say you will get an opportunity. But what a lot of us will do, and I've done it myself, I've never done it myself, but I've certainly been tempted myself being asked to do something and almost going to say, oh, no, no, it's fine. I'll pass on this one. Because you're worried and you're nervous and you're too scared to do it. Because, we all get this thing, well, I've always had that. It's like, what if I get found out? I'll get found out. I'm not that good. I think if we're all being honest, I've certainly, I've all, I was, it's like, I suppose it's that imposter syndrome. I'm always like, what if I get found out,
Yeah,
But
that's really important thing to. I'm glad you said that. I have a question because there's another thing that comes up when I have these type of conversations, especially with I go to the schools a lot and talk to the students, and so that's real. I'm glad you said the imposter syndrome because that is something that I don't talk about enough. But but yeah, like, don't hold yourself back. Basically, don't turn yourself down because you're scared. What about pay? Would you? This is something that comes up a lot on social media where you shouldn't do anything for free. Like, this is like a big narrative where you should not volunteer. You should not try to get your foot in the door. You should, like, all these conventional wisdoms that really helped me on the come up are people are being told not to do. Do you have anything to say about like you're talking about taking advantage of opportunities that arise, and how could you talk a little bit about compensation and how you feel about that?
yes, because I've got a lot of views on that. Because, you rightly said I did a lot of things for free. Back in the day when I was up and trying to be something and do something. And to be honest with you, you didn't really have a choice. You either did it for free or you didn't do it. So if I look back, would I say, well, I regret doing that for free, but I wouldn't have got the opportunity otherwise. What I don't like about it, and I think you could say it's not necessarily a hair thing, but I would go as far to say, do you know what? This is a hair thing. Why is it that the hairdresser doesn't get paid? Right? What is it that we just love our job so much that we should be on a shoot? And I've been on shoots before, I've been on shows, I've done every aspect of this industry, right? Good and bad. I've been on shoots before when the photographer's getting paid a lot of money, right? The photographer's assistant is getting paid, the makeup artist is getting paid, the clothes stylist is getting paid, the studio is being paid for, the model is getting paid a lot of money, or even 4 models in that one day is getting paid. And perhaps the manufacturer, the brand, is paying for the shoot. Guess who's not getting paid?
Hmm,
The hairdresser. Why?
interesting.
And that is it's a bugbear of me. It was a bugbear then, but it's a bugbear now when I look back. And I think it's unfair. And I reckon it's probably still happening. But then I look back and think, if I didn't do it, I wouldn't have got that front cover, or I wouldn't have got that thing in a magazine. I might not have got on TV. Even it's it really irks me, to be honest, because as we learn our craft, we do so many hours, whatever it is, honing your skills. But why is everybody else? Why is it expected that everybody else is being paid apart from the hairdresser in that situation? I don't understand it.
Hmm.
The problem we've always had is if I don't do it, the next guy will do it for free.
Yep.
This is the issue we've always had. And it's only when you start to hopefully get that notoriety. And I was quite lucky early on in my career. I worked with Charlie Miller in Edinburgh, and Charlie was really coming up at that point. And I was very young. I was only 18 at the time, but he was kind of making a worldwide breakthrough as far as doing shows all over the world. And he was very adamant that, you know what, I'm getting paid. The stylists should get paid. And it was people like him that kind of, but it was few and far between. Because again, the work it took to make it, so to speak, a lot of it was for free. But everybody else is getting paid. So that was always a bugbear. Do I have the answer to it? I think if we all agreed not to do things for nothing, then we would get somewhere. But it's a culture that we've developed over years. But that also goes on the salon floor.
Yeah.
Hairdressing and being a salon owner and being in the industry a long time, hairdressers are notorious for undercharging. Undercharging for their work because they're such nice people. We're like, oh, just make it. I know it's supposed to be that price, but just and that again, or they're not charging for the extras that they do. I did a few highlights in the top. I didn't bother charging. Why not? It's taking your time. It's taking the product, the foils or the mesh, all cost money. Your time costs money, and it's something in the industry that we have to get better at. Because believe you me, these days things are tough for salons. Things are tough, and we can't carry on like that.
So I feel like this leads us into me wanting to ask you a question about kind of pushing all the way to where you are now. And I hope I'm not skipping
That's all.
too much, but in the introduction, I said you're the person who brought Phenix Salon Suites to the UK, and to get to that point, becoming like I think it'd be really interesting to hear how you got that opportunity or seized that opportunity. But I think we save that for another the next time we talk.
Yeah.
But as we kind of wrap it up here, I wanted to say that I feel like I wonder in your experience, because I think it'd be really interesting to have this US UK kind of conversation about suites and where you think things are going over on that side of the pond. And what I want to know is if salon stylists are notoriously bad for giving away their time and their services and being nice, and there's also a move for people into suites by themselves. Like, could you talk on what your thoughts are about that, and like what maybe if there's anything that you're doing to
Yeah.
to figure this issue out, because it sounds like it could compound and be
Yeah.
really bad if you're on your own. So that's just what I wanted to.
So I can talk about that, and that would lead me into what we are doing at Phoenix Salon Suites and how we are supporting them. So I
Okay.
can do that if we're ready for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I will say is I've been obviously keeping an eye on the market, and I believe maybe a couple of years before COVID, the percentage in the UK and I'm sort of pulling beauty and hair and beauty. The numbers tend to be quite similar, but hair and beauty, it was something like 38% were self-employed,
Oh,
right?
wow. And where is
Now,
this in the UK?
this was in the UK, so there was
Okay.
38% was self-employed. That was a couple of years before COVID. It's risen since then,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Now, at the last count, the number stood at over 65% as self-employed.
Get out of here.
That's not including salon owners. So 65% of self-employment was in the last figure, roughly, that the National Hairdressers and Hair and Beauty Federation put out. So they're official figures. That's not me just pulling it from, the wind. With a forecast that it'll go up to over 80% in the next 5 years, and that figure was a year ago. So that's how the landscape was looking in the UK. And as we say, there's things like from what we do from Salon Suites, because on one hand, you're saying, right, okay, it's your own space now. You can do what you want. And as we spoke about earlier, we're notorious for undercharging, not pricing properly. What we do offer, we call it Phenix Salon Suites immersion, right? And what that immersion is a support package that gives them support in different aspects of the business. Now, that package will include things like I, for example, sit and do a one-to-one mentorship about their business. Being in the industry as long as I have, running salons, big salons over the years, I know how to make a column work. I know how to make their business work. So we sit down with them, go through the numbers, and help support them to, running their business profit effective, and doing the right things and giving them sort of tips that I can give them to help. The other thing we also do is like we do a pricing seminar. And it's about how to price properly for your time or for what you're doing to remain profitable. And that includes what products you're using, how you're using them, and how you are actually dividing up your time. So that's another part of it. Another part that we offer them support on is also their social media. Because you yourself, Robert, know that when there's different ages and different, some of the young ones are really fantastic at their socials. Some of the people been in the industry a longer time are a wee bit kind of thinking, I know I should be doing it, but I don't really know what to do. So we take them on like a social media onboarding and work with them to give them tips and show them how they can actually work their business through doing social media. So those support things are essential. We get great feedback about it. They like that support. We also do colour seminars, so they get colour techniques. They learn new things, because another thing people will tell you about coming out of a salon, they might feel, well, I don't have the collaboration anymore. I'm not getting education anymore. I don't really know what to do. Or, I'm charging mates rates for everything. So it's all these kind of things that we can develop with them and help and support them with. At the same time, though, these people are self-employed. So, it's on their terms. We'll offer that support. Not everybody will choose to take it, but the support is there if they want it. And that will help them develop their business. For us, it creates a really positive culture, and it creates collaboration and a real togetherness within, even though it's suites, it's still, we still create a culture, and there's that, collaboration without competition within the building.
Nice. All right. Well, I think that this is probably a good place to wrap it up, and because I would like to dive into the suite stuff a little bit more. And just before we sign off, we talked quite a bit about your work in I want to call it the limelight. You're getting notoriety and doing the type of work that helps build your kind of elevate your status and your brand, your personal brand. And we got some tips on on the type of things that we should do and the way we should think if we're interested in pursuing that path. We also touched a little bit on stylists' abilities to manage their own business and the things that stylists should pay attention to and mistakes that they shouldn't repeat, as well as touching on this topic of the salon suite movement and people going independent. And I think that's like a pretty solid start to this conversation. And I think diving into what salon suites are like in the UK, what the growth process will be, and maybe even a little bit more about what you do as part of that. In the meantime, would you like to say anything into anybody, whether I imagine when there's two people that we'd be talking to today, and that is somebody looking to do stage work or celebrity work, which is a lot of the young people want that. And then anybody thinking about going independent, and if you have any words of advice for either one or both of those groups of people.
What I would say, particularly for people who want to perhaps step from behind the chair onto the platform, whether it be photographic, television, fashion, is push for it, believe in yourself about it. And when you get the opportunity, the biggest thing I can tell you is to say yes. Say yes, say yes, say yes. You will be tempted to say no, because it'll feel a little bit easier. But you have to say yes, and you have to push yourself, punch through that ceiling, and actually, get yourself in there and do it. But it's tempting to say no. So that's my biggest thing in that, is say yes. That's the biggest thing I can say. From a point of going independent, I would say about going independent is go independent when you're ready. Some people get the wrong idea that they think, I just want to be independent and I'll start there. I think you need to build yourself a base of business before you can think about being independent. And that means doing the hard yards, as I said, and building yourself that clientele, building yourself that solid base before you then try to expand that business, whether it's within a suite, whether it's being self-employed within a salon, whatever journey that you want to be on. But you can't do anything until you have that strong power base of a clientele.
Nice. Awesome. Great. Well, thank you for your time. And I look forward to having you on the show again to talk a little deeper into salon suites in the UK and Europe. And until then, I'll talk to you later. Thanks for coming on the show.
Great, thank you for having me.